أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين. الرحمن الرحيم. مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين.
يلا أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربنا علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. وصلي اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا Muhammad. So, because we have recently been blessed with new friends who, upon hearing of the Iqra principle, wanted to know what it is. So, dear new friends, this talk is for you, and it's a reminder for our old friends as well. And by the way, whatever I'm telling you, you will find some of this in my book because the book is about the Iqra principle. So when you get the book, inshallah, soon, it'll be in your hands. You will find that much of what's in it you've already heard from me, which is wonderful. So last week we opened our minds to understanding the Iqra principle methodology, which is about, first of all, as usual, Quranic context, Quranic language, how it is retrieved through its Arabic text and the oldest lexicons, with insight obtained from what authenticated tradition and scholarly works. We reflected upon the importance of names, and if you remember, Surah Al-Baqarah رقم 31 the ayah, وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did as soon as Adam alayhi salam had cognizance. So that's very important to know the names. Once we mix up the names of anything, we get lost and we get wrong concepts, wrong thoughts, wrong everything. So we also spoke about the meaning of tadabbur, following concepts or words to their dubur, meaning to their end result, and to understand the gist that is behind them. And of course, between brackets, the onus for tadabbur is upon Arab speakers first and foremost, meaning that the responsibility for the tadabbur of the Quran is upon us Arabs first and foremost, and it is we who shall be held responsible before all others for having done or not done tadabbur of the Quran. In Surah Muhammad, Surah number 47, Ayah 24, will they not then pursue the Quran to the conclusion or the gist behind it? أَفَلَا يَتَدَبَّرُونَ الْقُرْآنَ. Why? So that they could grasp its full implication. أَمْ عَلَى قُلُوبٍ أَقْفَالُهَا. Or are there upon hearts and minds their own locks, meaning their locks that clamp them shut. So we should be doing tadabbur of the Quran and not to be what? Affected by preconception. So we spoke about the divine command Iqra. We listed the 6 components of the root verb qaraya as defined in the lexicon of Ibn Faris, who died in 1004 of the Common Era. And of course, the components are to gather, to carry or retain, to deliberate, to witness, to be timely in the now, to serve and to share. And today, what are we going to talk about? Well, you'll see. We spoke about to gather last week. Today, we're going to complete the gathering process because that's very important. That's actually maybe the most, it's the base. So maybe it's the most important as we start. And of course, as children, it's very important also. As parents, we know that. So we went through that component. We're going to, again, talk about it a little bit more. And we're going to recognize the divine command of Iqra, which was the first command, as a dynamic to be applied throughout our life from childhood onward. And that's how we realize the transforming power of the Iqra dynamic and how it changed the lives of its earliest recipients and made history, and how it can change our lives, transform it to the better, and rewrite our future, inshallah. Unlike any other compilation which is put together by human hands, right? The Quran is not a qira'ah. Everything else would be a qira'ah, would be a kitab. This is the only entity on earth named Quran by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, given that name, because it's in the active state. It's in the active state of being collected, retained, and assimilated by a qari, who is ready to share it in word and deed. It is interactive with its qari. And that is how, if we were to be proper qurra, each of us a qari, and let the Quran bring all its beauty out to us, we would be restoring the message and ourselves as recipients to the Creator's default, to what it was when the message was sent. There was a default there, that how things should have stayed, but of course they didn't because of having lost the Arabic language. So it was a mode, which is an interactive mode, which became deactivated at some point in time, and we would like now to reactivate it. Al-an, this time is our time, and we should try and do that now, inshallah. So we spoke about gathering last week. Gathering is the first connotation of the root verb qaraya. And as the lexicon tells us, water is gathered, qaraya, in a miqra, meaning the gathering vessel is called a miqra, and the gathering of people is called a qarya. We took that last week. And we also looked at the ayat which were revealed. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Iqra, by the exalted attribute of your Lord Sustainer who created. خلق الإنسان من علق. What did we say علق was, if you remember? He created the cognizant human from a bond with the high. A bond with the high. علق is something which is what? فيه أن شيء يناط بالعالي. So something that is connected or معلق with a bond with the high, which is us, because our insaniya, not our bashariya, our insaniya came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Our bashariya came from earth to earth. Min teen, our insaniya came from alaq, which is a bond to the high. So, Iqra wa rabbuka al-akram. Iqra, and your Lord Sustainer is the most magnanimous. Alladhi allama bil qalam. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. He who taught or defined by qalam. Defined for the cognizant human that which he did not know. علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم. So, okay, what is qalam? So many of us think of qalam as a pen, but actually what it is in the Arabic language is what? It is that shape, الذي قلم, it became sharpened to look like a pencil, a reed, a stick, or a column. And if you look at the word column, you will notice column and qalam. They are exactly the same because a column is a qalam. Now, qalam is something which has been, as I said, sharpened, but if we don't want to use the word sharpened, we can use the word filed, because actually you file it, right? It's something filed, formed by filing into a pencil, or a reed, or a stick, or a column. So, الذي علم بالقلم, he who what? Taught or imprinted upon us by not the pen, by differentiation. Because each qalam in Arabic is a file. By filing, mental files. Even today, if you want to file your nails, you say qallamtu adhafiri. If you are wearing clothes which have two colors in them, let's say a dress, and it has two colors, we say thawbun muqallam. Muqallam meaning it has, let's say, a white qalam and a black qalam. Muqallam, it has aqlam in different colors. So the meaning of qalam is not actually a pen, but people took that meaning the same way they took the meaning of yad. And when they said yadullahi, they said Allah's hand, astaghfirullah al-azim. Yad signifies quwwah. Al-aid hiya al-quwwah. And from the aid, or the meaning of quwwah, it became projected onto the limb, which is the hand. When you say, give me a hand or lend me an arm, right? So you're talking about what? The strength. But you projected that strength onto the limb. Same way with yad, yadullahi fawqa aydihim. Allah's not hand, astaghfirullah al-azim. Allah's power, Allah's capability. It is there, his power is added to theirs. So يد الله فوق أيديهم. So same thing with qalam. Qalam originally was not a pen or a pencil or anything like that, but it was projected onto that item to be called a pen or a qalam. But the original meaning of qalam is what? Filing, something that is filed into its own description. So when you say allama bil qalam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what? He made us, he imprinted upon us, he taught us by filing. How do we learn? We learn by differences, by looking at something and seeing the difference, by differentiating between one thing and another. A child would you teaching the difference between a square and a circle. You teach them the difference between white and black and yellow and pink. How does a child learn that? By making mental files. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Because actually everything is about that. Everything is about the names and about making the choices. Making the choices. You make the mental choices and then you carry them out what? Physically. You make the mental, you file in your head, you file in your mind. This is helpful, this is wholesome. هذا من الطيبات, هذا من الخبائث. This is something Allah would please him. This is something that would not please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is something helpful for my family. This is something detrimental for my family, for my health, all of that. All of that is what? Bil qalam. All of that. It's about choices that you make and how you think of them and how you file them. Sense of self versus imitation, selection versus seduction, awareness, all of that. These are all mental files. Harm versus wholesomeness, all of that. So we spoke about gathering last week, and we said, we spoke about taqwa as well. We said that gathering without taqwa is detrimental. Why is gathering, if we have no taqwa, detrimental? Really, it's unhelpful. Because gathering is part of our base biological drive. It is part of our base biological drive. ألهاكم التكاثر. التكاثر meaning to amass, to gather and amass and gather and amass. That is part of our base biological drive. So we try to have takathur in what? In progeny, in our tribe, in our children, in our entourage. That's part of it. And of course in our wealth and and all of that is amassing, gathering. But actually much of gathering is not helpful. And if we don't have taqwa, then actually the whole of whatever we gather will not take us anywhere good, because we wouldn't have had taqwa to know what is good and what's not. And if we don't have taqwa, what do we have? Remember what we said? We have udwan. Either or. One only appears when the other is gone. So what do we gather? We gather, first of all, the rightful names. That's the most important thing to gather, to learn the rightful names, which is why, inshallah, we have to teach our children young, our young children, teaching the meanings that we're talking about today. Meaning of shukr, meaning of ithim, meaning of hamid, meaning of all those beautiful words. When we teach them to the children, they are gathering the rightful names. They won't go wrong. So we gather the rightful names, and then we decide what we're going to carry. We gather the good habits, the hasanat, the good deeds, the good friends, and we build for ourselves what? We amass or we gather. But what do we build for ourselves? A good reputation, right? We build for ourselves a good reputation. And as parents, we make sure our children do the same, and we allow them to gather the happiest childhood memories. And this is so, so important. The happiest childhood memories. They will take it with them throughout their lives. It will strengthen them. But speaking about reputations, what's the most important? It's our reputation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls us, or what He renders us, we are all a work in progress now. But what will we be? What will we amount to at the end? That's so important. Our reputation. But our reputation, not fi dunya, our reputation fil akhirah, inshallah. Now, Al-Imam al-Shafi'i said something beautiful. He said, earning people's acceptance is a goal unattainable, while earning God's acceptance is a goal indispensable. رضا الناس غاية لا تدرك ورضا الله غاية لا تترك. Earning people's acceptance is a goal unattainable, while earning God's acceptance is a goal indispensable. فعليك بالأمر الذي يصلحك فالزمه. So focus on that which improves you and keep at it. ودع ما سواه فلا تعانه. And let go of all else and do not stress for it. فإرضاء الخلق لا مقدور ولا مأمور. For earning creation's acceptance is neither at hand nor in demand. وإرضاء الخالق مقدور ومأمور. Whereas earning God's acceptance is both at hand and in demand. And that's a beautiful saying of Imam Shafi. So we want to earn Allah's acceptance, and we are gathering now. So what do we gather? We choose our role models. We choose what to gather, people, the people we want to gather around us. And we are aware of where we are stepping. We gather footsteps, not missteps, right? Because we found out in Arabic, if you were with us a while ago, we found out a beautiful thing, a strange but beautiful thing, which is that the two words in Arabic, khatu, which means what? Step, and khata, which means misstep, a mistake, or a step that went in the wrong direction. Those two are of the same root verb. الخطأ والخطو of the same root verb. لها أصل واحد في معجم مقاييس اللغة. كل منها يدل على تعدي الشيء والذهاب عنه. Both of them. فالخطوة هي المرة الواحدة. ويقال أخطأ إذا تعدى الصواب. So both of them have the same root verb. Isn't it something? And we know, of course, that a friend could guide you or misguide you if that friend is very close to you. We have a famous saying بالعربي. What is it? الصاحب ساحب. So when we look at our role models, we look at our friends, we should be very, very what? Choosy. And we look at the Quran as well, which tells us in Surah Al-Isra, Surah number 17, ayah 36, وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٍ. And do not follow the track of which you have no knowledge. So you don't just follow people just like that. Do not follow. Do not follow. If you have no knowledge of where the ending is, do not follow. Because what? You don't know what harm will come out of it at the end, right? So, and Al-Zamakhshari tells us about this ayah in particular. Al-Zamakhshari, he died in 538 after Hijrah, 1143 Common Era. He says that the call in this ayah is for the conscious selection of what you track or pursue. You have to select what you track or pursue, or emulate, or copy, or get yourselves into. And he adds at the end of what he says, within this is the prohibition of taqlid, is the prohibition of imitation. لا تقف لا تتبع. يقال قفى أثره، يعني ولا تكن في اتباعك ما لا علم لك به من قول أو فعل، كمن يتبع مسلكا لا يدري أنه يوصله إلى مقصده فهو ضال. You have to see where it's leading, or else you are ضال, you are lost. والمراد النهي عن أن يقول الرجل ما لا يعلم. Do not even put words in your mouth that you don't know the result of or what they mean. وأن يعمل بما لا يعلم. You should not be doing things which you do not know anything about. ويدخل فيه النهي عن التقليد دخولا ظاهرا. And into this comes the prohibition of imitation, taqlid, on the what? On the outer level. Why? لأنه اتباع لما لا يعلم صحته من فساده. Because you are following what you don't know the good of or the bad of. So taqlid in general is something which we should be very, very careful of. So what does that bring us to? Brings us to influencers. Right? So we say that influencers are something which came up on us right now because of TikTok and because of this and that, but no. Influencers have been there since ever, since the beginning of history. In 7th century Arabia, those who delivered information to their generation and documented history and all those, they were influencers. And they were the poets at that time. At that time, they were the poets and the lyricists. They were the media of that time. They spread all kinds of information far and wide, and the Quran spoke of them. What did the Quran say? It said that they are roaming thirstily down every avenue and speaking of what they failed to do. والشعراء يتبعهم الغاوون ألم تر أنهم في كل واد يهيمون وأنهم يقولون ما لا يفعلون. So that's what they used to do. They are the shuhara, the mass communicators. They are followed by whom? By al-ghawun. Al-ghawun are the enticed, people who are what? They look at them, they are influenced by them, and they follow them beady-eyed. You know, they don't know what they're doing, they're just following blindly. They're called the enticed, al-ghawun. May we never be of such people. So let us recognize our own worth. God deemed us worthy of being spoken to and being given his word. He honored us, each of us, to be a qari, to be a recipient of the Quran. So what have we gathered? What have we gathered? Okay. Must we carry everything we gathered? No. We don't have to. Release the burdens and the wrongdoings that you've gathered. Don't have to carry it with you. You gathered it, it was wrong, you don't want it anymore, release it, let go of it, and what? Be free of it, and just retain what is wholesome right now, al-an. Part of that is asking Allah's forgiveness. Part of that is forgetting grudges. Part of that is letting go of self-blame. Open a new leaf. Isn't it about time you realized that every prayer is for that purpose? That every Ramadan is for that purpose? For you to let go, to release. First of all, you gather, right? And then what do? Then you carry. But you don't have to carry everything, because the second component of Iqra is to carry, right? But you don't have to carry everything. Release. Because you are going to be living your life under the load of what you carry, and you don't want to carry what is unwholesome, right? What you let flow into your cognizance is a reflection of what you are. But you can let it flow out again and improve your reflection. So let's decide what I want to carry. Okay, so I want to carry what is best, inshallah. I want to carry that because I have to bear the weight of it my whole life, but it's something that is what? Worthwhile to carry. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us what? قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِي أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرَةٍ أَنَا وَمَنِ اتَّبَعَنِي وَسُبْحَانَ اللَّهِ وَمَا أَنَا مِنَ الْمُشْرِكِينَ Surah Yusuf 12:108. This is my way. I invite unto God with insightful evidence. Ala basira. This is so important to have basira. Basira is insight. It's not sight like basar, it's insight. I and whoever follows me. We follow Rasulullah. Don't follow anybody else. And glory to God. Subhanallah, I am not one of those mushrikeen. I'm not one of those who are shirking him. So, however, you have others who tell you, follow me. وقال الذين كفروا الذين آمنوا اتبعوا سبيلنا. Those who deny say to those who have attained faith, follow our way, and we will surely carry your misdeeds. اتبعوا سبيلنا ولنحمل خطاياكم. That's a lie. ما هم بحاملين من خطاياهم من شيء. They will never carry any of your misdeeds. So at the time of resurrection, they will be questions about what they were, lying and falsifying. إنهم لكاذبون وليسألن يوم القيامة عما كانوا يفترون. Surah Al-Ankabut 13, 29, 12, and 13. They are liars. Nobody will carry anybody else's misdeeds. Whoever tells you anything, please think of it yourself and use your insight. Always use your insight. Whoever that person is who's telling you something, use your insight. And compare it to the Quran. If it is Quranic, definitely go ahead. It's good advice. If it's not, then leave it. What will happen if we let the shaitan in? We're trying to make good choices, right? But what shaitan seeks to do is to strip us of our insaniya, of this insight and the fact that we were insane. Because right when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to bow to Adam, he did not. He said he's created from teen. Adam created from teen. I'm created from nar. He's created from teen. But actually Adam, his body was teen, just his body. Iblis did not see that the body is teen like any animal, but there is something else which is from alaq, which is his insaniya, not his bashariya. Shaitan did not see that. Or he did, pretended not to see. Because what does shaitan want to do? Shaitan, look what this ayah says. It's amazing what this ayah says. Surah Al-A'raf 7:176. This person was not followed by shaitan until after he had skinned himself from his consciousness, from his, you'll see that. What does he say? What does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say? وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ الَّذِي آتَيْنَاهُ آيَاتِنَا فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us a story of somebody to whom he gave his ayat, his signs. فَانْسَلَخَ مِنْهَا. So he skinned himself from Allah's signs. One of Allah's signs is what? His being insan. He skinned himself from his own insaniya. He left himself to his own bashariya, to his own lusts and desires. فَأَتْبَعَهُ الشَّيْطَانِ فَكَانَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ. When that happened, shaitan had him. أَتْبَعَهُ الشَّيْطَانِ. خلاص, shaitan followed him. فَكَانَ مِنَ الْغَاوِينَ. He was of those enticed. خلاص, he was a goner. Why? Because he had stripped himself from our signs. So the shaitan hitched onto him, and he became one of those who were what? Dallin. So, subhanallah, we have to be selective. We have to retain what is worthy of the cognizant human to retain. What is worthy of the cognizant human to whom God speaks. Allah speaks to you, not to your flesh, not to your body. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks to your cognizance, to your as insan, ya ayyuhal insan. This is what we are. We should always be thinking of that, always remembering that. We are not just bashar. Bashariya is our lower side, our lower self. Our higher self is al-insan. So we retain what is worthy of al-insan. And we use everything related to bashar, because it's, of course, to keep ourselves alive. We use it, but we are not it. We are not it. It is a vehicle, which is what we use in a good way, inshallah, in the best of ways, inshallah. So what do? We retain what is worthy, and we discard all other choices. We retain what is healthy and helpful and wholesome, and discard everything else. Now, when we do so, what will we find? We said, don't blame yourself. Ask forgiveness. But there's something else. Amendment. Amendment. You have to correct any mistakes you've made. You have to make amends. As-sayyi'at, misdeeds against others, require reparation. Takfir. Yukaffirullahu sayyi'atihim. And they require islah. And they're not forgiven in the same manner as our dhunub are forgiven. In the Quran, we have the words taba wa aslaha. So even when you ask Allah for forgiveness, you make tawbah. There is aslah after that. What does that mean? Meaning that I make tawbah, that's something I've done wrong, and then I try and mend it. Islah. So we seek forgiveness and we make amends. And usually it's what? It's with each other, with the earth around us. That's how we make amends. So we try to carry a balanced load. We seek our potential with awareness and knowledge and responsibility. We try to overcome negative experiences. Beware of desensitization. When you see something frequently, become desensitized to it. If it's wrong and you keep seeing it, it's no longer wrong. It's familiar. All of that is so scary these days, isn't it? So what we had gathered earlier, right? It is now either enriching us or burdening us and weighing us down. We try to keep what is enriching us, right? And we try to also do what? What is enriching us? We try to allow it to enrich others. So there's something here which we should talk about when we're talking about what? About retaining. So when you retain, you don't just retain a certain quantity and keep it to yourself, because we have to do what? Shukr. So we are discarding what is khabith, we are retaining what is tayyib, and we are making what is tayyib mashkur. We're making it proliferate and expand and increase, and that's what pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said in Surah 76, Ayah 3, إن هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. Verily, we have shown him the way, either a shakir, productive in the use of his bounties, or a kafur, meaning a denier, impeding productivity and not using his bounties. And that's an ayah, هل أتى على الإنسان هل أتى على الإنسان حين من الدهر لم يكن شيئا مذكورا إن خلقنا الإنسان من نطفة أمشاج نبتليه فجعلناه سميعا بصيرا إن هديناه السبيل إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. So but why is this ayah so important? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has هديناه السبيل. He has shown him the way. The way of what? The way of choice. The way of being able to choose إما شاكرا وإما كفورا. Either he is going to be shakir, meaning he's going to be productive in the use of Allah's bounties, or he's going to be kafur, denying and impeding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's bounties. This is so important for us. And we have this aphorism by Ibn Ata'illah al-Skandarani, who lived in 600 and, well, he died at 709 after Hijrah, which is 1310 Common Era. من لم يشكر النعم فقد تعرض لزوالها وما شكرها فقد قيدها بعقالها. Whoever does not appreciate the bounties and graces which he was granted has thereupon become liable to their disappearance, and whoever appreciates them, works to enhance them, he has thereupon fettered them, tied them together by their own cord. So this is a beautiful aphorism, and of course Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran in Surah Ibrahim 14:7, وإذ تأذن ربكم لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم ولئن كفرتم إن عذابي لشديد. And your Lord declared, if you work in appreciation, I shall indeed augment you. If you work in appreciation, لئن شكرتم, if you appreciate actually, but as I said, appreciation means what? اعملوا آل داود شكرا. So it means making things appreciate, not that you appreciate saying thank you. No, that's not appreciation. Appreciation is working with something to make it appreciate. Okay, that is why you do not say, I appreciate God. You cannot say, I appreciate my parents in Arabic. In English, you do. But in Arabic, you cannot say that. You cannot say, أشكر زوجي, أشكر أبي, أشكر أمي, أشكر والدي, أشكر ربي. You can never say that. Because أشكر means that whatever you are doing, shukr to is appreciating, meaning it is increasing. Astaghfirullah al-Azim, Allah does not increase. So you cannot say Ashkurullah. You say Ashkuru lillah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells in the Quran, Shkur li wali walidayk. Li wali walidayk. Meaning, Ashkur to me and to your parents, but not Ashkurni, meaning appreciate me. Because Allah does not increase. Your parents will not increase. But you appreciate towards them, meaning whatever they give you, you appreciate towards them in what they have given you. You appreciate towards Allah and what He has given you. اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. So, لئن شكرتم لأزيدنكم is a fact. When you are productive, when you are working with shukr and you are productive, it's a fact that would cause increase. It's a fact. There's a lam here, لأزيدنكم, meaning for certain, right? So may we be among the shakirin. May we be among the shakirin who are active in Iqra. So, but here, after all those details we spoke about, I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you had the scary thought, which I get all the time. What if we, educated Muslims, and more amongst us should be scared are the educated Arab Muslims? Okay, but listen to this. What if we, educated Muslims, are the most responsible and therefore the ones whom God will question about what we're talking about before anybody else on earth. What about if, it's a scary thought, what if on the day of judgment, Allah said, okay, all of you who have a college degree, who know better, come, astaghfirullah al-azim. What if we are more responsible than anybody else and we will be questioned before anybody else because we did not even contemplate the Quran, look at the Quran, search the Quran, find out what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, try and find out what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying. Think about that. How many educated Muslims are reading the Quran like a rote, reading, going through the words without thinking about them, or looking at a simple tafsir and just going, okay, that's what it means and that's it. I'm not going to think about it any further. How many of us are doing that? That's a scary, scary thought. Scary thought. SubhanAllah. It's really scary. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَقِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. Halt them there. Stop them there. قِفُوهُمْ إِنَّهُمْ مَسْئُولُونَ. They shall be questioned. In Surah Al-Safat 37:4. We shall all be questioned, but may some of us, may rahmatullah just carry us through. So this is completely really up to us. It's up to you, up to me. No one else is to blame for our shortcomings. I'm to blame for mine, and I have many, and I know them. At least I think I do. And you have your own shortcomings, and you know them, or you think you do. Whatever we think we know, let us put it in a list and try to overcome it. May Allah forgive us. May Allah forgive us. So that brings us to the end of our talk. Our talk today was about the Iqra principle, methodology, and the 6 components of the root verb qaraya, and the importance of names, the first and second components to gather and to carry or retain, and the importance of making careful choices. How do we make careful choices? Other than with taqwa, awareness, right? The importance of following the right role models, keeping the right kinds of friends, getting the right kinds of habit when we are young. All that is very important. And not to copy or follow without awareness. And that we should try not to strip ourselves of our insaniya. And what? And become bashar instead. We are insan. Each of us is an insan. We are nas. Each of us is insan. Do not revert back to being a bashar alone. You are part bashar, but you are also insan. And of course, we have also spoken about shukr and the importance of helping what we have retained to appreciate. Whatever you have retained, make it appreciate, meaning make it increase and proliferate with shukr. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين.